Hello folks, it's me, DeMontropolis, and I will be taking you on a journey through Super Mario Land, released in 1989 for the Game Boy. It was actually a launch title for the handheld, and Mario was specifically chosen to lead the pack. A different department at Nintendo was tasked to develop this game, being R&D 1 instead of R&D 4, and despite Super Mario Land being among the best-selling games on the Game Boy, it feels like nobody ever talks about this game in detail, at least compared to the other big games of the Mario series. Fun fact, my first experience with this game was actually on original hardware, as one day in college, my friend pulled up with his own Game Boy out of nowhere, and this was the only game of his that caught my attention, so I devoted all of class time that day to playing and beating it in one sitting, and that was quite the surprise to my friend. But enough with the preliminaries, it's time for the main event, Super Mario Land. First thing to note is that unlike most other Mario games, you do not explore the Mushroom Kingdom here. Instead, Mario heads to a new country called Sarasaland, which offers 4 unique settings to its worlds based on real-life locations. The Birabuto Kingdom is influenced by ancient Egypt. The Muda Kingdom is based on the Bermuda Triangle. The Eastern Kingdom is based on Easter Island, and the Chai Kingdom is influenced by mythical ancient China. This helps immensely with fleshing out the identities of the 4 worlds and expanding upon the core underlying themes, like desert and water. With the new country also comes a new princess, this being the introduction of Princess Daisy, ruler of Sarasaland. Although she plays the same damsel in distress role that Peach usually has to play, it's good to see Mario looking out for others besides his signature girlfriend. Sarasaland is also home to many fun enemies, most of which are indigenous to each of the 4 kingdoms. To tie in with Eastern Kingdom being decorated with Moai heads in the background, most of the enemies actually are Moais as well, and the Muda Kingdom has aquatic enemies who are adept both above and under the surface. Other enemies are even unique to one specific level, so even the levels themselves are getting unique flair. The high trees with spear bugs trying to dive bomb you, the spider-infested cave of many arachnids, and the bamboo forest full of undead schoolgirls, the list goes on. However, one of the game's biggest problems is the length, being a very short experience with only 12 levels. Granted, they are very distinct from each other, but there's only so many of them before the game is over. If there was one more world, or heck even 2 more worlds, it would have circumvented this problem and the next one easily. Next problem being that the game is just too easy overall. My college friend was genuinely shocked with how quickly I was able to beat the game, and I don't blame him. Power-ups are very common to come across, like this one area in World 2-1 that has 3 of them within a very close proximity. I'd say out of all the 4 worlds, the first 3 feel too close in difficulty to each other, and it's only the last one that starts to ramp up a bit. But at that point, the game is basically over. I do have to say though, Super Mario Land is well polished for a launch title to the Game Boy. I say this because the game could have easily fumbled with the new hardware, but what we got is relatively bug-free as far as I'm aware, making for a clean experience. Controlling Mario will definitely feel different at first, particularly with how air acceleration and deceleration works, but I think it's still manageable to get accustomed to. Platforming is relatively easy across the game, so any stray deaths are usually either your fault or result from not having adjusted yet. One of my favorite bits about the control is that your running acceleration is nearly instantaneous and snappy, and I found this really helpful to overcome the level design. Since platforms and areas to move are generally small, it's a godsend to allow Mario just a couple pixels of room in order to break into a full sprint. It also helps with running across multiple small gaps at once, which is something repeated quite often, so being able to run immediately helps a lot. However, there is some sort of jankness to the physics. When walking off a ledge, Mario plummets down, a behavior you would expect from a Castlevania game. There are also times where you can hold onto air momentum for a very long time without actually holding a direction, or other times where aerial momentum just doesn't want to apply to a still jump. One of the biggest new additions to this game is actually a very risky one, with the Super Ball Flower. It was a gamble to replace the Fire Flower, a power-up so famously associated with 2D Mario games, but the developers made this one-of-a-kind trick work. You throw this ball that bounces diagonally, and although you can only have one on screen at a time, you can collect coins with it, which is especially helpful in the treasure-filled bonus rooms. Combat is also made more interesting thanks to the Super Ball Flower. By comparison, the Fire Flower in Mario 1 raced along the ground at high speeds and swept nearly the entire opposition. Only a few enemies could actually resist it. With the Super Ball Flower, you not only have to aim at enemies with a more limited trajectory, but there's many enemies who can tank 2 to 3 hits. It's almost like fighting with a short-range Mega Buster, and it feels really cool. It also bypasses many enemy functions that counter stomp attacks. The Koopas in this game leave behind explosive shells, but that can be ignored with Super Balls. And remember the undead schoolgirls? They cannot die to stomping, but they can die to Super Balls. Although the game is short, it is packed with secrets. So much so that each level actually follows a rule. This rule being that every level has 2 secret pipes that take you to bonus coin rooms. This helps make it easier to remember the locations of these secret pipes. Plus, when you do find them, it is quite mind-blowing, as you are rewarded with many coins. Also, once you exit these secret rooms, all enemies and gimmicks outside it will despawn, a nice feature that gives you extra room to breathe. As you progress through the game, the secret rooms get more and more profitable with the amount of coins they provide. It's to the point where once you reach World 4-2, the entire room is filled with so many coins, it's enough to guarantee at least 2 1-ups. And with Super Balls helping you collect so many, it actually extends the 1-up sound in a way that sounds like the game is struggling to play it. It's an unintentional perk that helps enhance the feeling of hoarding so many coins at once. Instead of flagpoles at the end, there is always a platforming challenge to reach the door on the top. The bottom door is simply a quick way out, but the top door introduces a very generous and fun bonus game. This gives you a great chance to rack up more 1-ups, though you have to be careful with the ladder so it doesn't send you to the unwanted Super Ball Flower. But at the very least, it's making sure you're powered up for the next stage. Also, this game has so many 1-ups to grab. It's honestly commendable how they were able to make 1-up hunting so enjoyable. With the hearts obtained in the stages, the amount of coins from secret rooms, and bonus game, there's never a shortage. Plus, this game is generous enough to show your counter go past double digits at all times. If you get everything just right without dying, it's possible to surpass 60 lives before the game ends. However, there are some secrets that come off as a bit frustrating, primarily from how awkwardly designed they are. There's this one path in World 2-2 that can only be accessed by being both small and going through an invisible floor, and there's even an entire gimmick walled off by hidden blocks, a lift block that takes you to the very top of the screen. They only appear 3 times across 2 levels, and until you find them out, you'll be driven to drink on how to get to those inaccessible coins. Even secret pipes and 1-ups are hidden by this, which bothered me for a good while once I learned about these lift blocks. Another secret that bothers me are World 4-1's secret pipes. Basically, you're expected to be holding the run button right as you enter this pipe, so you can move into the isolated pot of coins. This is only if you know they are there, however. With how quickly the game transitions from room to room, first-timers are guaranteed to just drop straight down and miss all the coins, wasting several seconds of time. One problem with this game's levels are the amount of sections where you jump across moving platforms. There's too many sections, and it makes the challenge feel redundant, with there being only a few levels that don't have them. In addition, the moving platforms can change directions very suddenly and do not make it clear when they will turn around. Your only clue is to observe them beforehand, which is easier said than done, and on rare occasion, moving platforms may actually desync from each other if you slow down, making it much more difficult to traverse than what's intended. World 3-3 has this one hidden block that is a source of frustration. See, revealing it gives you nothing, it's only there to give you a small boost to the platform above. Thing is, Mario can already make that with a running jump off the pipe, given how quick acceleration is, but don't even think about doing that, as this same hidden block will bonk your head and cuck you into the pit. I do like that there are some areas where being small for a bit is actually beneficial, but not forced like it was in Lost Levels. In World 1-3, there's a lower area that you can enter if you're small, and you get rewarded with several coins, and even a free mushroom to bust out and finish the level with. Another example is with this secret room in World 3-2, an example that I actually found by accident. There's a coin block here, and if you're small, you can sneak into this one tile gap. Now, coin blocks don't actually have a cooldown in this game. So with Mario being so close to the block, there's nothing stopping you from going and racking up almost 40 coins on this one block. It's ridiculously fun to do, much more than it should be. For 2 levels, Super Mario Land puts you in a vehicle, the Marine Pop or the Sky Pop, and these make for easy and fun shoot-em-ups to break up the pace. The gameplay is very simple to grasp, and the only difference between the 2 vehicles are the enemies they deal with. The Marine Pop faces enemies who overwhelm in numbers and throw out many projectiles, while the Sky Pop has to deal with more tricky patterns and cramped space. Although there is no perk to being Super Ball Mario, there are a lot of coins to collect, one formation even spelling out Mario's name. One oddity in the Sky Pop level are human fists coming out of pipes? Why? They only appear in this one area in the entire game, and it's such an out-of-place gimmick, not even a challenging one too. I can only assume it's to be an invincible piranha plant, but the less said about these things, the better. On the aesthetic side of things, this game did not age well. The background detail is very simplistic, with pyramids being straight lines for example, while character and object sprites get blurred by the dark shading. Even some of the character sprites came out sloppy. Daisy's face looks like a traumatized Lego head, and I know I keep calling these enemies undead schoolgirls, but that was legit my first impression, and I had no idea they're supposed to be mythical creatures of Chinese folklore. Now I know the footage here is colorized, because that's my preference, but here is a comparison of World War II with color, without color. Not very appealing. However, this game has a unique sound design that's distinct from the iconic sounds or jingles we usually associate Mario with. Normally people say it's a bad thing to stray away from that, but I make the case that it helps mold this game's identity as something more unique than your typical 2D Mario. The soundtrack, specifically for the songs used for the main levels, is very catchy and makes each setting more memorable. The Birubuto song is a cheerful way to start your diverse adventure. The pop theme makes a fast remix out of Mario 1's ground theme, and the Easton theme combos echo and stereo together to perfectly capture an eerie atmosphere. My favorite song in the game. Also, props to the rocket ship ending theme for evoking bittersweet nostalgia. Although there are some great tunes here, there are unfortunately these inexplicable duds or songs that are poorly composed. The song for completing a level is honestly grating and not something I look forward to hearing. The main boss theme is one of the worst boss themes I've heard in a long time. It kills the mood of the previous song, and the only saving grace is that the boss fights are so short that you won't be subjected to this song droning on in your head. Speaking of which, the bosses in this game are really sloppy, even though there's an attempt to make them unique. This big lion is an obvious homage to Bowser from Mario 1, but with a very lazy and mindless pattern, the fight will last no longer than a few seconds, no matter how you fight him. Same goes for the giant seahorse and the floating orb, who are technically 2 bosses as you can hear the music start over. Weird how that works. The Moai with limbs at least attacks from a safe distance, but a good jump is all that's needed to end the fight, and the cloud just gives birth to chickens. Also, the sounds when they get hit with projectiles is really obnoxious. The final boss of the game, Tatanga, also falls into this camp. He's the space alien who hypnotized everyone to serve him so he can marry Daisy, but his fight does not live up to his reputation. Yes, he's better than the rest of the bosses, but all he does is shoot 3-way orbs, nothing the Sky Pop can't handle, and his own theme music's melody gets drowned out by all the sounds. At the very least, when you beat the game, you get the option to play the game's second quest, known as Expert Level. Although it only increases the enemy density, some make unexpected appearances in levels they're not normally in, so it definitely adds a bit more flavor to certain sections and may even mess with your muscle memory. It's not that difficult though, and beating Expert Level opens up a stage select for you to free roam. However, the game does not save your progress on reset or let you toggle between normal and expert, so these features are just whatever. Wow, this turned out to be a pretty short review, probably the shortest yet, but here we are with 18 pros and 12 cons. The game's length is definitely the biggest problem here. A typical playthrough for me lasts around 30 minutes, and that's because I always go for all the goodies, but speeding through instead cuts playtime by 10 minutes at least. Still, I actually ended up liking this one more than the original Super Mario Bros., and it's a pretty distinct game too. It's not every day where you hear the can-can as your invincibility theme. So with that, I'm going to give Super Mario Land a rating of 7 out of 10. Good. Well, that's the end of this review. If you like what you saw, consider giving a like and subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment if you have something to say, and as per usual, my Discord server, DeMontropolis, is in the description, so consider joining if you're new to the channel. If you're watching this on the day of upload, stay tuned. My first music poll for Mega Man 4 will be available later today. And with that said, I'll be signing off. Take care, folks.